story time. But I couldn't do it without him because I feel like it's wrong to only put out one side. So, here we go.
Okay, so the story is that we are getting divorced because it was our decision. It's my best friend. I still love her to death. Like, we still got a child together. We still gonna be hanging out. I'm probably
All
gonna
the
see
time.
it most days of the week, but at the end of the day, we got shit to do. That's it. You feel me? She has a path to go. I got a path to go, but our paths are parallel. And we always gonna be next to each other.
Yeah.
And who's to say what's gonna happen in the future? All that we know is right now. Right now, it's the best. I mean, real talk, it's the best decision for both of us. For her to do what she needs to do, for me to do what I need to do. So
we can grow and heal
that's
and
it.
elevate. No hard feelings. This is not a messy divorce or anything like that. We don't do that. This is like I said. Like he said, this is my best friend at the end of the day. He has been before the relationship, before the marriage, before the kid. So nothing's gonna change that. So
Like, look at her, bro. Like, I would never lose this forever. For real. And look,
so we're good, y'all. We're
for
good.
real, like for real.
On July 31, 2023, April Holt, a 29-year-old mother and TikTok creator, was discovered unconscious in the bathroom of her Nashville home. The authorities quickly labeled it a suicide, but April's mother, Jamie Dickerson, refused to believe it. She knew her daughter too well. This wasn't the April she knew. She was vibrant, full of life, and had 2 young children who depended on her. So, what really happened that day? Could this have been something more than what the police were saying? Jamie was about to find out, if she could uncover the truth before it was too late. Now, imagine being in Jamie's shoes. Your child is gone, and the police say it's suicide, but your heart tells you it's not true. What would you do? Would you have accepted what the police said, even when you know there is more to her death? How far would you go to uncover the truth? Stay with me, because what Jamie discovered will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this case. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to extend my deepest condolences to the family, especially April's mother, Jamie Dickerson. I can't imagine the pain you must be feeling right now. To lose a child is a heartbreak no parent should ever endure. And to all of April's friends, her fans who followed her on social media, and everyone who knew her, my heart goes out to you as well. You lost someone who brought so much light into your lives. I am deeply sorry for your loss. I too am angry. Angry that a bright, vibrant woman who had so much to offer, who uplifted so many, was taken from this world too soon. No one should have to face the tragedy that Jamie and the rest of April's loved ones are going through. This is a story that should have never unfolded, and it's important we all remember the real April, the person she was, not just the tragic ending. She was more than this. She deserves to be remembered as the mother, the creator, and the incredible woman she truly was. Rest in peace, April. You won't be forgotten. April Lynn Holt was born and raised in a small town just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, a place where everyone knew everyone and life moved at a slower pace. April was a vibrant young woman, someone who stood out not just for her looks but for the warmth she radiated. She excelled in school, known for her kind heart and willingness to help others. In her community, she was more than just a student. She was a person who took the time to listen, who made everyone feel like they mattered. Donovan Holt was born and raised in a small town not far from Nashville, Tennessee. Like April, he came from humble beginnings, but his life was much more private. He wasn't someone who sought attention or fame. His interests lay in the quieter, more personal aspects of life. Growing up, Donovan was a reserved person, someone who preferred the comfort of his own company or the company of a few close friends. His hobbies included fishing, hunting, and working on cars, activities that allowed him to spend time outdoors and away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. He wasn't a man of many words, but he was often seen tinkering with something in his garage or spending time in nature, away from the distractions of the world. While his life in the small town he grew up in was far from glamorous, it was familiar and predictable. As an adult, Donovan continued to live a quiet, somewhat secluded lifestyle, which contrasted with April's growing presence on social media. April Holt was a 29-year-old mother of 2, a TikTok creator who had built a community of over 200,000 followers. Her videos were a reflection of her joy, her love for her children, and her faith. She wasn't just a content creator, she was a mother, a daughter, and a friend. April's TikTok was filled with moments of family life, positivity, and inspiration. She had a way of making everyone around her feel seen, heard, and uplifted. But on July 31, 2023, April's story took an unexpected and tragic turn. That day, she was found unconscious in her bathroom at her home in Nashville, Tennessee. A plastic bag duct-taped tightly around her neck, a scene that seemed impossible for someone with so much to live for. The police, however, quickly ruled her death a suicide. They believed it was a tragic, final choice she had made. Her mother, Jamie Dickerson, wasn't convinced. She knew April. She knew her daughter's spirit, her strength, and the life she had been building. April had recently made the decision to ask her husband Donovan Holt for a divorce. Was this the reason for her death? Did this change in their relationship set the stage for something far darker? In the face of what seemed like closure from authorities, Jamie refused to accept what she knew in her heart couldn't be true. She began asking questions, uncovering details, and following the painful trail toward the truth. As the investigation unfolded, something didn't feel right. The authorities had quickly labeled April's death as a suicide, but there were details that raised more questions than answers. April's mother, Jamie Dickerson, was one of the first to see them. When she finally saw her daughter's body, she couldn't ignore the bruises, dark, unmistakable marks on April's neck, her thighs, and her ankles. The bruising was strange, and it didn't fit the picture of a simple suicide. If April had taken her life, why would there be such significant marks on her body? It was a red flag that couldn't be overlooked. Then there was the gash, an unusual wound on April's inner thigh. It was something the initial investigators hadn't even noticed, but Jamie did. It seemed like a small detail, but to a mother who knew her daughter's body better than anyone else, it was a sign of something more, a sign that the story the police had accepted didn't add up. April hadn't been herself in the days before her death. Her family, her friends, they all noticed it. April had asked for a divorce, and the decision weighed heavily on her. It was unlike her to be distant or withdrawn, but this time, it seemed as though something was off. She'd been full of life, a woman who poured everything into her family. Now she was gone, and her mother was left trying to make sense of it all. Jamie's instincts told her this wasn't a suicide. She knew her daughter well. April had always been a fighter, someone who wouldn't give up easily. A mother's heart, guided by love and a deep connection, told her there was more to the story. So she refused to accept the authorities' ruling. She wasn't ready to believe that her daughter was gone because of her own hand. Jamie took it upon herself to dig deeper, even when the case was closed, and the more she searched, the more questions arose. Could the life that April had built, the relationships she had fought for, and the sudden shift in her marriage to Donovan be the key to unlocking the truth? Or was there something more, something that had been hidden all along? Even though the police had closed the case, Jamie Dickerson wasn't ready to give up. A mother's love, her intuition, it wouldn't allow her to let this go. The grief of losing her daughter was unbearable, but the uncertainty was even worse. Something was missing, and Jamie was determined to find it. She knew that if she wanted answers, she had to go beyond what the police had already done. So she started her own investigation. Jamie went over the autopsy reports, read through police files, and asked the uncomfortable questions that no one else seemed willing to ask. She dug into the smallest details, convinced there was more to the story. But there were moments when she thought it would all be for nothing. It felt like she was hitting dead ends at every turn. Still, she pressed on. She couldn't stop. It wasn't until months later, after days of poring over evidence and following leads, that Jamie finally came across something that gave her hope. A breakthrough. There, on the roll of duct tape used to strangle April, were fingerprints. But not just any fingerprints. They were Donovan Holt's. It was the clue she had been waiting for, the one piece of evidence that could break open the case. Donovan's fingerprints on the tape meant one thing: he had been the one to use it. It was the smoking gun Jamie needed to expose the truth. But even with this discovery, Jamie knew she wasn't done. She had the evidence, but she had to push further. Would Donovan confess? Would this lead to justice for April? Or would the truth remain buried, locked away in silence? As Jamie confronted Donovan with what she'd found, she could feel the weight of everything she had uncovered. The truth was on the horizon, but would it be enough to bring closure to this nightmare? Months had passed, and Jamie Dickerson, a mother with nothing but raw determination, stood face to face with Donovan Holt. The evidence she had fought for was undeniable. His fingerprints, right there on the duct tape. The truth, however long it had taken to uncover, was finally within reach. She'd already known the police weren't going to dig deeper. The case had been closed, the assumption made. They were satisfied with the quick judgment of suicide. But Jamie wasn't. Every instinct as a mother, every fiber of her being, screamed that there was more to this than anyone cared to see. She couldn't let it go. So she confronted him. With no fear, no hesitation, Jamie spoke the truth to Donovan. His actions, his silence, were no longer enough to shield him from what he had done. She laid out the facts, his fingerprints on the tape, the strange bruises on April's body, the gash that was overlooked. Donovan had no way to deny it. For a long moment Donovan sat there, his eyes shifting, his hands trembling. It was clear that he knew the truth had been uncovered, that there was no escaping the consequences anymore. Then, finally, it came. His confession. Donovan Holt admitted it. He had strangled April. The duct tape, which had been presented as nothing more than a tool for a supposed suicide, was now exposed for what it truly was. A means to mask the truth, a twisted attempt to make it seem as though April had taken her own life, when, in reality, Donovan had been the one to end it. In a fit of anger and pride, unable to accept that she had chosen to end their marriage, he made the terrible choice to take her life instead. As Jamie listened to his words, the weight of it all pressed heavily on her chest. This was the moment she had feared, yet expected all along. The man who had sworn to love and protect her daughter had, in a cruel twist of fate, betrayed her in the most unimaginable way. He hadn't just taken April's life. He had tried to erase her from existence entirely, replacing the truth with a lie so carefully constructed that it almost seemed believable. But Jamie wasn't fooled, and neither was the truth.
Story time, but I couldn't do it without him because I feel like it's wrong to only put out one side. So, here we go.
Okay, so the story is that we are getting divorced because of our decision. It's my best friend. I still love her to death. Like, we still got a child together. We still gonna be hanging out. Probably
All the
gonna see
time.
it most days of the week, but at the end of the day, we got shit to do. That's it. You feel me? She has a path to go. I got a path to go, but our paths will pay her live. We always gonna be next to each other. And who's to say what's gonna happen in the future? All that we know is right now. Right now, it's the best. I mean, real talk, it's the best decision for both of us. For her to do what she needs to do, for me to do what I need to do. So,
We can grow and heal
that's it.
and elevate. No hard feelings. This is not a messy divorce or anything like that. We don't do that. This is like I said. Like he said, this is my best friend at the end of the day. He has been before the relationship, before the marriage, before the kid. So, nothing's gonna change that. So,
Look at her, bro. Like, I would never lose this forever. For real. And look,
so we're good, y'all.
for
We're
real,
good.
though. Like, for real, for real.
The anger that must have surged through Donovan in the days leading up to April's death was now laid bare. He couldn't stand the idea of a life without her, couldn't face the reality of her wanting out of their marriage. And so, he did the unthinkable. He took her from this world, and he made it look like it was something April chose for herself. For Jamie, the weight of his confession was like a wave crashing into her, at once devastating and final. She had known all along, even when others didn't want to believe her. The pieces had been there, scattered in the reports and clues that no one had cared to see. And now the man who had once stood beside her daughter, the father of her grandchildren, had been exposed as her killer. The truth hit hard. It was raw, real, and painful, but for Jamie there was no satisfaction in hearing him confess. The damage had already been done. The betrayal ran too deep and the loss too great. But justice, in whatever form it could take, was finally being served. And as Donovan sat there, the weight of his actions hanging in the air, Jamie felt the flood of emotions she had kept at bay for so long. Relief, anger, disbelief. None of it could bring her daughter back. None of it would ever make things right. But it was the truth, and in the end, that was all she could hold on to. Jamie would not stop now. The confession was only the beginning. There was more to be done, more to be fought for. April deserved justice, and Jamie was determined to make sure that justice would come, no matter the cost. The truth had been uncovered. Donovan Holt had confessed, and justice was starting to take shape. But even with this small measure of closure, the pain was far from over. For Jamie Dickerson, April's mother, the journey had only just begun. April's 2 children were left without their mother, a hole in their hearts that would never fully heal. A 7-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter were left to grow up without the woman who had given them everything. They would never feel the warmth of their mother's embrace again. They wouldn't experience her guidance, her love, or her voice cheering them on as they faced the challenges of life. For Jamie, the impact was impossible to measure. Watching her grandchildren grow up without their mother, without the woman they loved so much, was a daily reminder of the emptiness April's death had left behind. There were no words that could ever truly capture the magnitude of the loss April's family had suffered. No way to explain the pain of watching her daughter's children suffer because of a decision Donovan had made in a fit of rage. As Jamie reflected on the events that had unfolded, her grief consumed her. But she didn't let it swallow her entirely. She couldn't. She was determined to ensure that April's life and death meant something. It was the only way to honor the woman April had been and the memory she had left behind. In her grief, Jamie found strength. She began to write a book about her journey through loss, a book that would help others cope with their own grief. Jamie poured her heart and soul into these pages, not just as a mother who had lost her daughter, but as someone who believed in the power of healing and moving forward. And she didn't stop there. In April's name, Jamie began working on something even bigger. A community center dedicated to helping those who were dealing with loss. A place where people could come together, share their stories, and heal from the pain that tragedy brings. It was a place where April's legacy could live on, in the lives of others who needed support, just like Jamie had. For Jamie, this was her way of ensuring that April's memory would never be lost. Her daughter had been a force of light in this world, and Jamie would carry that light forward, even in the darkest moments. By helping others, Jamie hoped to make sure April's story would be heard and remembered, not just as the victim of a tragedy, but as the woman who had lived with purpose, who had brought joy to so many, and who still had the power to inspire others, even in death. The grief was still there, the pain would never fully go away, but in her determination to help others, in her commitment to keeping April's spirit alive, Jamie found a way to heal. And perhaps through this journey, the weight of her loss could eventually become something meaningful, something that mattered. While justice was still unfolding and the family was still reeling from the aftermath, Jamie was slowly turning the grief into something more, something that would serve as a testament to her daughter's life. And through this painful process, she was reminding herself and the world that even in the deepest of tragedies, there can be hope. As we've unraveled this heartbreaking story, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the case? Were you surprised when Donovan Holt finally confessed, or did you suspect him from the start? April's story is one that has touched so many, and now, as we reflect on everything she went through, I'm sure you have thoughts you want to share. Leave your comments below. Let's have a conversation. Do you think justice is truly being served? How do you think Jamie's journey through grief will inspire others who've suffered similar losses? Let's talk about it together. And if you found this story compelling, if you want to hear more true crime stories that bring light to the dark truths we sometimes overlook, make sure to hit the subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Stay tuned for more.